Today, me and Tuck are going to show you what to do so you never have to weed again. Let's go! Weeding is one of the worst parts about gardening. I would say having to deal with pests, that's gotta be the worst, but weeding is a close second. Let me show you what my garden looks like when I don't use the method that I'm going to share with you today. I've been wasting time pulling weeds because I just didn't do what I'm gonna show you. Let me take a few steps this way. Check it out. No weeds. A fresh layer of wood chips down, a perfect food forest floor, and not any weeds in sight. The only thing you see growing right there are some strawberries underneath my apple tree. When I think of wood chips, I see in my mind an old tree that has been just soaking in energy from the sun and converting it into wood and storing it for the last, say, 40 years. If we want, we could burn that wood and use the energy really quickly. Or we can take that wood, cut it up into wood chips and lay it on our garden, and that energy can be unlocked slowly over time with microorganisms and fungi. That wood will be eventually converted into humus, and the wood chips end up being one of the best weed suppressants out there, but also an incredible soil fertility builder. There is a sort of technique or skill that comes with wood chipping your garden. You don't want to just take some wood chips and just toss them into your garden. You want to do it right the first time. Let me show you how. First, you want to lay down an initial biodegradable layer. This will help keep the light from hitting the soil, and that will greatly help suppress some of the weed seeds from sprouting. Another thing is when it's biodegradable, it will also feed the worms over time, which is nice. So if you want, you could use something like cardboard, which is easily accessible. The only issue with this is it becomes annoying pulling off all the tape sometimes, and it could be tedious to lay it down. An alternative, which I like to use, is contractor's paper. It's essentially really thin cardboard that's rolled up. So it makes it easy to lay down. You just cut it and just roll it out and put your wood chips on top. So super easy. It's just not free, so you're gonna have to pay for this. Cardboard works nicely too, but sometimes you have the gaps in the cardboard, and if there's gaps, the light can hit it and that'll allow some weed seeds to sprout through. The next thing you're going to need are obviously wood chips, and you're going to need a lot of them. The more, the better. You don't want to cover your garden with only 2 inches of wood chips, or the weeds will push right through that. You want about, say, 6 to 10 inches of wood chips. It really depends on what kind of garden you're going to be growing though. If it's an annual garden, a new garden, you want to put down, say, 6 inches of wood chips, because you're going to have to pull those wood chips back and plant into the ground. So if you put 10 inches of wood chips down, it's just going to be a lot of work pulling all the wood chips back. If you have a young food forest, I would say about 7, 8 inches of wood chips. With the young trees, you don't want to pile the wood chips super high. If you have an established food forest like I have, I'll put down, say, 10 to 12 inches of wood chips even, because the trees are super established. So it really depends on what kind of garden that you're actually going to be growing. A few things that are super important is that the wood chips are a mulch, so we never want to mix them into the soil. That would cause a soil stomach ache. We only want to layer the wood chips. That will also prevent any of the wood chips from possibly robbing nitrogen from our soil. Wood chips, again, are a mulch, so we don't want to plant into the wood chips. If we want to plant something like, say, I do my tomatoes, I pull back the wood chips and then I plant the tomatoes into the soil. After the plants grow up and are larger, then I'll bring the wood chips back around the plants. But we don't ever want to plant directly into the wood chips. You're probably asking yourself, which kind of wood chips are best? Well, for a mulch that helps suppress the weeds and build soil fertility, the best wood chips are arborist wood chips. These are ones from fresh cut down trees. They still have the needles and the leaves in them. These will provide food for the worms and the microbiological organisms and just help feed them over time while also suppressing the weeds. Me and Tuck wants to take a second to mention we have a sale going on for the Tower Gardens. The 7-tier one right here is 20% off for a limited time. Perfect for strawberries, like you can see, herbs or lettuces. There's also a sale going on for the 5-tier Tower Garden. It's 15% off. Those are the ones with the 10-inch depth on the pockets, perfect for planting some deeper rooted crops like cabbages and stuff. Grab one while you still can. If you have the option to choose, I would suggest getting wood chips from like a hardwood tree, say a maple tree or a Bradford pear tree. These will break down slowly over time, and that will make it so you don't have to come by every couple years and add more wood chips onto the garden. I'm over in the other food forest. You can see we have this all wood chipped, no weeds coming up. Looks fantastic. A nice thick layer. Let me just dig down and show you. These are pine wood chips I'm using too. I'm not worried about them acidifying my soil or anything. You can see it's nice and deep, holding in the moisture really well. I mean, just keep going down there. You'll love to see it. The worms will come in, break down a lot of these leaves and stuff, convert it to humus, and then the wood chips will be broken down by fungi over time, which is fantastic. This is the ideal mulch for a food forest and perennials because that fungi is exactly what woody species like. Over time, we'll also be able to build that mycorrhizal association, which is like this symbiotic beneficial connection where the roots of plants like blueberries or pears can tap into that fungi and just be able to get some water from it, and that fungi can stretch across a whole forest. Really nice stuff. You'll notice for my annuals though, I'm not using wood chip mulch around them. When it comes down to it, annuals like more of a compost mulch. So as these get larger, my cabbages, my lettuces and stuff will come and put a mulch down, but I don't particularly like using a wood chip mulch for these annuals. I will use a wood chip mulch for my tomatoes, but realistically, I just like using a wood chip mulch for mostly perennials and woody species. That's the best. It's really just about keeping those weeds down when it comes down to it. Let me open this up and show you some annuals I've got growing in here. Look at the beauty. Look at that bronze mignonette lettuce. Woo! Cilantro, a bunch of other stuff planted. Really happy with the health of these plants, and this helps keep all the bugs out. Super convenient. Just below this cherry tree here, I want to show you the soil. This is where we've had wood chips for years, and it's completely changed the overall structure of the soil and the color and the health. Look at that. Look how beautiful that looks. Look how dark it is. And I can go pretty deep in here. Look, let me just show you. Look how woody it is. It's dark, it's soft, it smells like a forest. It's just absolutely beautiful stuff. This is only just from putting wood chips down for years. Now I'll take you out and show you what my soil looks like just outside of the garden, just a few steps away. Let's just get up, go over here. Here's where I put down wood chips, looks a lot better. Here's a little boss trying to sneak in, but this guy's stealing all of our asparagus, so I had to lock him out to see if we can actually get some. And let's see what we got here. Look at this. Hard, all sand. I can barely even dig into it, but just all sand. So wood chips literally changed my soil and made it so it's so much less work because I don't have to be going out there pulling weeds. Another cool thing about wood chips, which I just thought of when I was grabbing that super compacted soil, is it helps reduce compaction, because when you're walking on a thick layer of wood chips, they can kind of, spread your weight over a larger surface area, and it doesn't compact the soil as much. And also, when you have really humus-rich soil, it just isn't as likely to get compacted as opposed to just sandy soil. So there's even benefits of wood chips that are hard to even remember. There's so many. So it's, in my opinion, the ultimate weed barrier, the ultimate soil builder, and something that everyone should be taking advantage of because it's a free and local resource. Some of you may be thinking, what about invasive weeds like crabgrass or something? I have some crabgrass right here. You can see in this location, I didn't put the wood chips thick enough so it came through. So we'll just go around and pull that up and get as much of the roots as we can. Then we'll just take more wood chips and cover it over top. As long as we are adamant about it and stay on top of picking the crabgrass, then it's going to eventually over time die off, because this is a plant. It needs to photosynthesize in order to continue to grow. So what we're going to do is just come out here regularly, any invasive weeds, and remove them if necessary. And then after a period of time, those weeds will just essentially die off, and we'll just make sure every time that we dig something out, we cover it again with some wood chips. So we'll just stay on top of that kind of thing. Now you're probably wondering, which kind of trees are good for wood chips in the garden? Can you use pine? What about black walnut? Black walnut roots have the juglone in them, and that can be allelopathic. So that could suppress some of the growth in your trees, you're probably thinking. Well, you don't have to worry about that, because the majority of the juglone that's in black walnut is in the roots. There's very little of it in the bark, in the wood, or in the leaves. And a lot of that gets dispersed when the black walnut's alive. So as it dies off, you're not going to be using the roots as a mulch. It's just like going to be the wood chips and stuff. So don't worry about that. When it comes to pine, you might be thinking, is that going to acidify my soil, the pine needles? it won't be an issue as long as you're not mixing the wood chips into the soil. When it comes down to it, the pine needles, the pine wood and stuff, by the time it becomes bioavailable for the plants, it's going to be broken down into humus. And humus has a very neutral pH and it's just great for adding into your soil. Basically, everything breaks down into humus. That's natural over time, especially the wood chips, especially the leaves. It all gets just broken down through all the incredible microorganisms and the fungi working in the soil. Tuck's out here having fun. Some of you may be wondering, is this the back to Eden method? Yeah, it essentially is. It's inspired by Paul Gauci himself. So all of our trees and stuff we grow in the back to Eden method, but then when we grow our veggies and stuff in the beds, like you can see right here, we do this in a different style because we like growing in the raised beds. It makes it really easy for us to be able to protect our crops, and it makes it easy for us to be able to fertilize and also water our plants without wasting any fertilizer or any water. So this is the method we use for annuals. So we've kind of adopted this approach where it's back to Eden method mixed with our own style of growing food, which is like a high production annual style. And they combine to just create a beautiful food forest scenario where we're constantly getting a lot of food. So it's definitely inspired by the back to Eden method. And I think it's probably the best way to keep the weeds down and keep the fertility high. There are some alternatives to wood chips. If you want, you could use like landscape fabric, but that's not gonna be free. It's not gonna break down over time and improve your soil overall. So wood chips are just, in my opinion, the best weed suppressant because it gives you so many additional advantages. And just taking all that solar energy and putting it onto your garden to allow it to soak up, I think just, it's amazing. I've got a cherry tree right above me. The bees are working hard on it. And I have really never, actually, I'm gonna do it this year though, have never really come and fertilized my fruit trees. They just produce all this fruit and grow so well just because of putting years and years of wood chips down. So wood chips are kind of like similar to perennials. It's like the more you put down, the longer time they have to sit, then the better it improves your soil. The best place that I have found to get wood chips from is to just call your local tree companies. I'll call a tree company, I'll say, hey, I need some wood chips. Can you deliver them to my house? And then I'll say, I'd prefer to get some hardwood wood chips if you have them. So I said that last time, they did give me pine, but I've just found the best way to do it is just call some local tree companies because they have to pay to get rid of it. So when it comes down to it, they rather just dump it at my place, I think. They're gonna heat up when they're in a pile in your driveway. So it's best to basically get them down if you can in the fall heading into winter, but now is the time to put them in also. And again, like I said earlier, I mainly use the wood chips for my perennials now. You can use it for annuals, but I think it works best for woody species. Jeff Lawton would say woody species like a fungal dominated soil, while more herbaceous species like your annuals, they like more of a bacteria dominated soil. So something like a homemade compost would work better than wood chips as like a mulch for your annual plants. If I'm gonna use a mulch for my annuals, usually I'll just use diced up leaves because they're free, they're easily accessible, and I'll just go over them with a lawnmower to cut them up. That's today's video, growers. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you got something out of it. Tuck is looking for a snack. Hey Tuck, want a snack, boy? Tucky. We'll give him a little bit of this mustard. I'm sure he'll probably like snacking on it. What do you think, boy? Come over here. And then over this way so everyone can see you while you snack on it. Oh, nope, this way, and then back this way. If you love seeing Tuck in the videos, spam some hearts down low for the young king. He likes chewing on the crunchy stems of this kind of stuff. Yeah, it's a pretty good snack, fresh from the garden. We had a blast out here. We hope you guys got some real value out of this video. We hope you take some time to go out there and wood chip your garden heavily. It's gonna save you a lot of time in the future not having to weed, but it serves multiple functions. It'll suppress the weeds, but it will also help fertilize the garden and build better soil structure. So it's truly a fantastic investment. It will save you time, it will help you grow better food, and it's just so beneficial to add it. Yeah, like I mentioned, you could add in you could cover the garden with some weed suppressant like, weed barrier. That's not a natural one, but I like wood chips. I think they work fantastic, and I think it's just a great option. Everyone should take advantage of it, and we should be out here enjoying our garden, grabbing snacks and doing some planting, not wasting all of our time pulling weeds. It's just not necessary. Me and Tuck wanted to send a thank you to one of our channel members, Jazz Vent. Thanks for being a part of Team Grow. Thanks for having your hand in everything we're doing out here. The plants are growing, the weather's getting nicer, and we're so happy to be out here just soaking up I mean, I guess there's some sun up there somewhere, but soaking something up. We had a good time. James and Tuck will be back at you again real soon. We